As you can see, it's that time of year where the leaves have changed. The acorns are all over the ground. Got the smell of wood stove smoke in the air. I just love that time of year. If you notice the sign on the side of the road, it's not twisted. It hasn't been damaged. It was put in the ground that way. So, if you're entering those woods, you better beware. There's a stop ahead in there. On my messy table. Apparently, I can't flip it around. Oh, yeah, I can. Maybe? Nope. Let's see if this works. See if you can see me. We could say today I'm taking the magic out of the mysterious, or I'm taking the mystery out of the magic, making the magic mundane. So many people, there's like a hierarchy and a spiritual politics that separate human beings from the supernatural. And sometimes we like it that way, we feel safer that way, and that's okay. This video is not for you if you're afraid of owning the divine nature in which we all were created to experience, to have, to be a part of, inherent within us. So when you go and you're on YouTube and you do a search for, something like your pineal gland, how to open your pineal gland, how to activate it, all we have to do is ask ourselves one question. Do we dream? By what means are images experienced as having been seen in our dreams? Well, that's our pineal gland. So we don't need any special practices or any special permissions to access and use the pineal gland while we're awake and conscious and going about our day, other than from within ourselves. We don't access the pineal gland while we're walking around during the day because it would be too much information to be able to see something other than the physical reality that we've chosen. So sometimes people say, oh, I saw aliens, didn't you see it? You're like, no, either you subconsciously triggered your own pineal gland, or it was triggered for you that you could perceive that entity existing in what they call a parallel reality. It's just a matter of what we consent to see and what we do not consent to see. Dimensions. Ooh, are you a fourth dimensional being? Well, we could ask ourselves the question. Do we have feelings? Do we get imprints of ideas that suddenly arrive? I have a suspicion. Well, all those intangible aspects of our experience that maybe you can't take a meter and put it out there and say, okay, how much emotion is coming off this person? Here's the validation. Oh, look, here's the emotional spore. Those things are our fourth dimensional qualities. and our fourth dimensional senses. So we're already fourth dimensional beings. Fifth dimensional is where we allow ourselves to perceive and pick up on such things as parallel realities. So if we're in a room, maybe we recently lost a loved one, and it feels like we get the sense of they just walked in the room and are going about their daily business. Well, that very well could just be that we're so close to that parallel reality where that loved one didn't give up existence in this reality, decided not to share this timeline. So, what is time? I liken time to the Dewey Decimal System in the library. How are we going to look up this author? Okay, this author has been called Autumn, spiritual name Crystal Morningstar, and legal name Stacy Bordeaux. So, where do all those coincide? Now, what state of being are we looking for this entity, this person, to experience? Do we want her in a channeling state of being? Do we want her in a purely here now physical depressed state of being? So this time and date designates that state of being for me, and we just pin times and dates to other experiences as a reference. So times and dates are just a part of the Dewey Decimal System in what would be like a universal library. I'm going to be so bold as to call it the Akashic Records. I don't know why, because I can. But it's funny because that's where, to gain confidence in ourselves, that we are in fact multidimensional, multifaceted beings, and that we can bring through and access understanding that maybe we haven't given permission to exist in our day-to-day life, is, I forgot where I was going. That happens because my attention starts wandering and other things start to try to come in. Ideas attach themselves to one another. But let's see what else. Oh yeah, bringing up the information. We are told that everything we need is within us, that the kingdom's within us. And that's why I never read like the books of Thoth. When I first went to access them, the first thing, the preface said, everything you need to know is inside you. All pages in this book beyond this are for those who like to struggle with and get lost in the intellectual, create puzzles for themselves and mysteries for themselves. Go play that game. But for those who really want to know, everything we need to know is inside us. So saying that time is just the Dewey Decimal System of the Akashic Records, that is how I gained confidence in my understandings. I would go inside, something would pop up, like at the time it was just unrealistic to say there's no such thing as addiction. But I got a download, and it was a whole package of understanding about the relationship between different aspects of ourselves, and especially when we're younger and we're in survival mode. Like, the body hates to see the mind and the heart suffering, so it craves these things to change the state of being that we're experiencing. So I would just bravely, boldly write that down in my journal or whatever. And then sure enough, down the road, all of a sudden, somebody else has written an article supporting that information. And so don't be surprised if after hearing that time is nothing but the Dewey Decimal System of the Akashic Records, that we go find that in writing somewhere. And it happens that way so that we may gain confidence in ourselves and in our ability to know and understand ourselves, to gain that information. Nobody understands me. Well, as soon as I understand myself, I can convey understanding of that to somebody else. But if I don't understand myself, I can't expect anybody else to understand me, or I can't recognize that somebody else is understanding me, because that is often a stumbling block. Oh, I'm unlovable. I'm unlovable. Oh, they say they love me. Well, they're crazy or a liar or, just as unlovable as I am. There's deception here. I don't trust them. I don't trust them. Look, they're making fun of me by showing me respect, And so that is also another form of channeling the information that comes from within you. And a lot of that information is what comes in what they call the subconscious, or the shadow, or the dark aspects of self. And that only gets twisted because darkness is condensed light. So we have just condensed that aspect of ourselves that is aware of everything else in a more expanded way when it tries to pop out, because, oh, that makes me different. Oh, I'm not comfortable with knowing that. And so we've condensed it and repressed it, and then it gets angry and twisted, and so that's where all your inner demons come from. So when you work on that, you start bringing the information and understanding out of that character of the subconscious and the darkness and the inner demons. It can share with us information, a greater understanding of ourselves. But we have to gain its trust, and we have to learn to trust it. So it's a mutual relationship going on there. Is there anything else I wanted to cover? I'm just happy to be back into this state of being, this comfort with it. And it's being rewarded by bringing other people into my experience who are interested in channeling, number one. And it just hit me. I'm so excited because I used to channel so-called higher entities. I'm going to write that down, higher, so that, because that's something else that I wanted to cover. Does higher equal better? So I got used to, ooh, I could bring Saint Germain through. I could bring I am that I am through. I could bring other people's consciousness, their expanded consciousness through. I could bring their own spirit guides through for them. But now I've expanded what I can bring through because I've gone through my own inner darkness. I've got access to so much more, so many more realms, so many more states of being, so many more inner kingdoms. And yeah, I shrunk down so that I could blow up. But I'm learning not to go too far too fast. I had started to bring through a lot of information, started making videos every day because it was just so exciting. And I said, wait, I need to stop. I need to let the other aspects of me catch up, because there are certain parts of me that may be resistant to certain information. So I have to get to know them. I have to comfort them. I got to allow them to catch up. They're not higher or lower understandings or aspects of me. They just are more more slow in arriving, and that is usually associated with the left brain aspect of me, and is commonly understood to be a human trait, that left brain is just traveling a different route. We'll say a longer route. It wants to be expressed as it takes a longer route to get here, even though the information can be spontaneous. So it comes and then it filters it through all the rest of our aspects before arriving and expressing itself, so that it has the proper way to express that right brain aspect can understand. Ha! Now I got it. So the other thing that I wanted to cover was, are higher dimensions better? Does that mean that they're good energies? Does that mean that they're good entities if they're higher vibrational? Well, we could just refer back to our grade school science education. All matter is made up of energy and is vibrating. How fast it vibrates determines whether it's solid, liquid, or gas form. That's science. So H2O is H2O if it's vibrating really slow and in the form of ice. If it's picked up its vibration and it's in the form of liquid, and it's still H2O when it's vibrating really fast and becomes rain, or a mist in the air as it disembodies. The disembodiment of an ice cube. That's water evaporating, dude. So now we have that principle of vibration, and if you study anything about the law of attraction, they use the word momentum. Now, we increase the momentum the more we access a vibration. Like, the more ice we bring into the room, the colder the room, and the more likely ice is going to stay ice, and the more likely we're going to get frost on our windows. So it's the same thing with our emotions and our feelings. So if I'm an angry person, if I'm an insecure person, I'm accessing, violent movies, violent video games, violence, I am creating that tension, the momentum of all the vibrations and all the forms that violence can take, hatred can take. And so when you get into those so-called higher vibrational realms, they're not all goody two-shoes up in there. If you ever notice people who get angry, they're very physically strong people. They've got that momentum, and it's just waiting to be released. They almost get supernatural in their ability to violently attack other people. And that, of course, magnetizes and draws in other entities and other experiences of anger and insecurity. And so it just creates more momentum and more alignment with that. And so they're like a freight train coming in on those so-called higher vibrational realms. So just because something is higher vibrational, it doesn't necessarily mean it has our best interests at heart. And one thing that I picked up on in the law of attraction, and they'll mention it once in a while, but they don't want us to focus on it. The more we get in alignment with inner peace and compassionate understanding, those that desire it most, those who feel that they lack it the most, are going to be drawn to us like those freight trains. So we've got those freight trains coming and wrecking our lives, totally destroying it. That's why those of us who very easily, very fluidly, very naturally get into a state of compassionate understanding will have our lives constantly become train wrecks. And once we figure that out, I'm learning that it doesn't always have to happen that way. We learn how to navigate those experiences in a way that they don't come and destroy everything about us. Because I understand what's happening, I don't internalize it and I don't get insecure, like feeling unworthy. Then I join them in their momentum and I continue down the track of wreckage with them, which I'm not experiencing anymore, I'm so happy to say. My experiences are people who understand me, who accept me, who appreciate me, who support me, who don't expect me to do anything other than what I'm doing. I'm still letting that sink in. So, yeah, just because something's of a higher vibration does not mean that it's in our best interest, nor does it have a bragging point. The only one up they have is if, say, for example, through a person, a consciousness decides that it's insecure and it's fearful, so it wants to learn how to trick and control other people's consciousnesses, like in the medieval times, maybe they wanted to be wizards or witches who could cast spells and curse people and all of that. And they learn about reincarnation, so they separate aspects of themselves so that when they next incarnate, they can remember and be that wizard and that control freak. And so they just gain so much momentum of drawing in information in how to, be controlling from a purely non-physical, by a purely non-physical means, that they will become more practiced at it. And so that's where those of us who aren't focused on controlling everybody else around us need to catch up. And we don't have to, like I said, we don't have to have certain practices. Rituals are good, but certain things, like tarot cards, those are just triggers. The symbols are triggers for our subconscious. So our subconscious knows which card it wants, which information it wants to convey, and the symbols are a language between our subconscious and our conscious mind. So they're tools. I don't need those tools, so I don't use them, and I don't muck up my communication with my subconscious, with my more expanded non-physical aspects, with trying to limit them and force them into expressing in the language of a tarot deck. What I do find helpful, however, is going to another, whether it be a channeler, a tarot reader, or something like that, to get insight of my own, because I will have fears, or I will not have awareness that I can access certain information, and so I have blocks for bringing through information, especially personal, emotional information about myself. So that's why it's helpful to have other people around me who engage in these practices. I certainly don't judge them. If that's how they can most fluidly and most comfortably bring information through. as I said earlier, we can be afraid of what our possibilities and potentials are. I mean, if I have the capacity to completely blow up a reality, and I also really, really, really do not like the idea of harming or disrupting somebody else's path, then I'm going to have conflict with abilities of mine to break through, break through my own reality, because that will disrupt the people around me. Like they always say, some people have to fall away so that other people can come in. That sort of disruption often comes with pain and discomfort and resentment from and in the people around us. And we don't like to feel that within ourselves, so we certainly don't want to cause that in anybody else. So if we're comfortable, with automatic writing instead of conscious channeling, if we're more comfortable with, casting dice or tarot cards, I mean, let's not go into the entrails of animals, unless you work in a meat slaughterhouse and they're going to serve as food for people anyways, okay? And I guess I could mention that a lot of people who base their belief systems on the Bible and are very afraid of these practices because, they're condemned. When you go back and you read in the Bible about God's instructions for having the temple built and the clothing that the priests were supposed to wear, they had a breastplate. And that breastplate doubled as like a board for getting readings. Yeah, kind of like a Ouija board. So if maybe we come from a Christian bent and we are afraid of all of these things that I'm talking about, it may bring you comfort with the existence of those things if you have the information that the priest's breastplate were a tool for gaining divine knowledge. I think that's pretty much it. That's what's been on my mind. Ideas that I want to bring through for other people and to share. So, I guess that's all for now. Thank you for your time and attention.